Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Open Format. Today is 12th December. There's something special about this day. आज की तारीख 12 दिसंबर क्या हुआ था? For those who are interested in the history of Delhi, or for that matter in the history of modern India, 12th December holds a special significance. Today, 12 December 1911, the coronation of shifting of capital from Calcutta to New Delhi was held, and it was announced the new capital will be New Delhi. आज की तारीख 12 दिसंबर 1911 को ये अनाउंसमेंट हुई दिल्ली के बुराड़ी के कोरोनेशन पार्क में कि मॉडर्न इंडिया की, आधुनिक भारत की राजधानी कलकत्ता से शिफ्ट होके नई दिल्ली की जाएगी. एक भव्य समारोह हुआ था. It was a grand ceremony where King George V and Queen Mary of England, they have come here, and the crown have held special arrangements for elaborate ceremony about who all will participate, who all will be invited, who all will come here and be a guest of honor and be special guest of the coronation ceremony. Well, ये हुआ अंग्रेजों के ज़माने में when India was colony of England, but it has changed the course of the modern India. जो सारा का सारा पॉलिटिकल एक्शन कह सकते हैं या कह सकते हैं कि लेजिस्लेटिव एक्शन जो है वो कैलकाटा से दिल्ली शिफ्ट हो गया. लेकिन ये हुआ कैसे और क्या प्लान था नई दिल्ली का, you will get to know in this episode. But before that, I request you to please follow, like and subscribe this channel, and also tell your friends, well-wishers, acquaintances. The open format is one-stop destination to get to know everything and anything possible about the history of subcontinent with the host Rajat Kane. I'm also open to field your queries, to get your comments and also act upon it and see what is that you want to see, what is that you like. I'll make my content accordingly. शुरू करते हैं कि 1911 12 दिसंबर को क्या हुआ, लेकिन उससे पहले हमें जाना होगा 1857 में. Although by 1857, because there was an East India Company residency and resident commissioner was here, तो जो अभी का सिविल लाइन्स एरिया है और जो अभी का जो आपका किंग्स कैंप एरिया है, वहाँ पर कुछ कुछ जो ब्रिटिश के जो उनके ऑफिसर्स थे और उनके रेजिडेंट्स वगैरह थे, उनके वहाँ पे अकोमोडेशन बनना स्टार्ट हो गए थे. they were living over there. After the 1857 uprising was quelled by the British, unfortunately, ये डिसाइड हुआ that ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी का रूल खत्म और ब्रिटिश क्राउन का रूल हिंदुस्तान में शुरू होगा. उसके बाद क्या होता है कि वी हैव अ कैपिटल ऑफ द ब्रिटिश इंडिया to be established in Calcutta. That took some time, but eventually it was established in Calcutta. Now, around 1877, there was also a darbar held in Delhi, New Delhi. The first one was held in 1877, then 1903, and eventually in 1911, 12 December, where it was announced that the British India capital will be now shifted to New Delhi. उस समय जो आज की हम नई दिल्ली देखते हैं, वहाँ पे सिवाय कुछ छोटे गांवों के मालचा और राय सिन्हा and plain field, rugged terrain, we had some hillocks over there. So what we see today in terms of Rashtrapati Bhavan, the Parliament House complex, Secretariat buildings, North Block, South Block, and the Lutyens Bungalow, India Gate, वो कुछ भी नहीं था. When 1911, it was announced that the capital was to be shifted to Delhi. There were reasons behind it. ऐसे ही नहीं हुआ कि कैलकाटा से लेके जो है दिल्ली कैपिटल ट्रांसफर हो गई. एक्चुअली कैलकाटा में अंग्रेज़ों का रूल करना मुश्किल होता जा रहा था बिकॉज ऑफ द राइजिंग और राइज इन द नेशनलिस्ट मूवमेंट अक्रॉस द कंट्री. धीरे धीरे जो एक तरीके से सुबहाहट बढ़ना शुरू हो गई थी, देयर वाज दिस larger awakening that was they were still sprouting up. Okay, now it's time that we cannot remain just a colony. But we would require independence. Of course, that took some time. Eventually, in 1947, 15th of August, we got our independence. But slowly, slowly, by the turn of the 20th century, it has begun to take some shape. Partition of Bengal, where the Bengal presidency was divided into East and West Bengal, did not go down well amongst the local public, amongst, for that matter, across the country. There was this feeling why British is resorting to this tactics of dividing. Divide and rule ऐसे ही नहीं आया. There is a larger theorem behind it. तो अंग्रेजों ने इस theory को बहुत ही कह सकते हैं effectively इस्तेमाल किया so as to perpetuate and extend their rule across the Indian subcontinent. Now, national movement start ho gaya tha. There was this uprising. Slowly, this awakening was happening, and the mainland was getting to know about atrocities that were happening, especially in the British jails, and especially in the Kalapani Andaman's jail, the Port Blair jail, the cellular jail जिसको कहते हैं. So slowly we're getting to know कि क्या हो रहा है. And we had these freedom fighters, we had this common intelligentsia, common public. They were slowly getting attuned to the fact that sooner or later they have to raise this banner of uprising against the British. So British thought, let's shift the capital, let's do something, a tactical move by the British in 1911, that will please the population at large, and it'll really help them geographically as well, because Calcutta, if you look at the map of the Asian subcontinent, Indian subcontinent, beg your pardon, that is easterly, whereas Delhi is fairly central. So now, if you study the map of the British India, which includes current Pakistan and Bangladesh, so उसमें जो है Delhi remains a center. और वहाँ से they thought it will be easier to rule the expanse of really vast Indian subcontinent. Going forward to 1911, where we had people from or the office bearers and kings and queens and royals from the princely estates, that was presided by Queen Mary and King George V. काफ़ी elaborate program raha. There were ferries that were made available from Bombay because their ship had docked at Bombay, and from there the party was brought in here to Delhi. उसके बाद भी कई इनके अरेंजमेंट रहे. जो महारानी थी उनको जो है हिंदुस्तान के कुछ जगहों घुमाया गया. किंग जॉर्ज जो थे उनको शिकार पे ले जाया गया. कहा जाता है कि 21 tigers were shot dead by King George V. इसकी ज़रूरत नहीं थी, बट अंग्रेज़ों के लिए खेल था. एंड perhaps that's a reason why उसकी ramifications हमें आज भी देखने को मिलती है, where the footprints of tigers across a continent has really come down. So clearly, I mean, it's not just they ruled the public, they also ruled subcontinent in all the sphere, and innocent animals for no fault of theirs were killed, because hunting was a very popular sport amongst the British. Leaving that aside, अभी जो बुराड़ी में जो कॉरोनेशन पार्क है, आज की तारीख में वहाँ आप जाएंगे तो वहाँ कुछ नहीं मिलेगा, कोई कॉरोनेशन नहीं है, बट वहाँ पे पुराने जो हैं ऑबेलिस्क है जिस पे एक प्लैक लगा हुआ है, that talks about the coronation being held at that very place. And also we have statues of King George and other royals which were sculpted so as to be placed at the courtyards in various parts of New Delhi when British started to carve out New Delhi. दिल्ली का, न्यू दिल्ली का, नई दिल्ली का प्लान क्या था? Simple. Shahjahanabad was capital of Hindustan till 1857 uprising. After the fall, or to say formal end of Mughal Empire, with the arrest of Bahadur Shah Zafar and his sons, eventually Shahjahanabad ceased to exist as capital of Hindustan. होता क्या है? British thought where to build a new capital in terms of location. They cannot build possibly a new capital within the Shahjahanabad confines, because that was anyway populated. It was rather densely populated by the turn of 20th century, and you had a lot of people living over there. It cannot have any accommodation of new buildings and structures which they were planning. And by the way, they had elaborate plans, which I'll tell you, like what all were built over there. So then they started scouting the location, and eventually they agreed to have a piece of land at between the expanse of Indraprasth, Raisina, and Malcha villages. Lands were acquired, and then there was a big hillock, Raisina Hill, that was made as flat as possible. ज़्यादा flat हो नहीं पाए because that was a geographical expanse, that was the contour of geography, due to which they can only go to an extent flattening it. आज जो आप gradient देखते हैं राजपथ पे, which is now called कर्तव्य पथ, उस पे खड़े होके when you're looking at राष्ट्रपति भवन down the hill, you have to go up the hill. साइड में है आपके साउथ ब्लॉक, ये है नॉर्थ ब्लॉक, एंड एंड में यू हैव राष्ट्रपति भवन कॉम्प्लेक्स. नाउ इस ग्रेडियंट की भी कहानी है. Edwin Landseer Lutyens, who had designed several buildings across England, especially in London and Bath, he was called in by the British government to design new buildings. The Viceroy's House, which is Rashtrapati Bhavan, the Council House, Legislative Assembly, which is now the Parliament House, and other accommodations. Another person, another architect who had immense experience of designing government buildings, especially in South Africa, Herbert Baker, he also joined Lutyens. These two were extremely good at their craft. At the same time, which usually happens, unfortunately, they never quite got along well. And these two were friends, which is written in a couple of old documents, that these two were friends, great friends, but this project ultimately led to their splitting up. They just fell out. There were several reasons for that. The first reason was about the gradient. When Rashtrapati Bhavan was plotted, was designed on the map, it had a place where it'll be right on the top of the gradient, right at the beginning of the gradient, as you see the relief going up the hill. Uske baad seedha Rashtrapati Bhavan. Now what happens? Herbert Baker decides to have secretariat buildings, North Block and South Block, just before Rashtrapati Bhavan, the Viceroy's house. जिसकी वजह से Rashtrapati Bhavan has to be pushed slightly behind. Slightly behind meant a good 400-500 meters behind. That would involve, of course, extra cost, extra materials, and a new layout altogether of New Delhi. That didn't really go down well with Lutyens, and eventually these two friends started to have a rift in their ideas. Although Baker's plan was accepted, it was approved, and Landseer Lutyens, he was not happy with it, and this is usually termed as Bakerloo. Rashtrapati Bhavan, or the Viceroy's House, massive building. It houses 340 odd rooms, corridors, banquet, loggia, private quarters, servant quarters, orderlies, cottages. So बहुत ही शानदार, बहुत ही एक कह सकते हैं मॉडर्न महलनुमा पैलेस बनाया गया था, जिसके अंदर जो है आज की तारीख में वी हैव सेरेमोनियल banquets and ceremonial rooms, Ashok Hall, Darbar Hall, Garden Loggia, and also we have a banquet hall, जहाँ पे whenever there is a visit by dignitaries and the teams, they are hosted over there by the President of India. Now, Rashtrapati Bhavan, the Viceroy's house, was also to house the Indian Parliament building. लेकिन ऐसा हुआ नहीं. With the adoption of Montague and Chelmsford reforms, it was decided that the British Indian government would require a bigger building for parliamentary work. जिसका मतलब they'll have a parliament house rather outside Rashtrapati Bhavan, but not really far. So right at the end of the gradient, when you start driving down the Rashtrapati Bhavan, on the left flank, we have the Parliament House complex. इसकी भी कहानी है. Now, Parliament House complex, or to say Parliament House building, उसके दो नक्शे थे, the triangular and the circular. Triangular was proposed by Baker and circular was proposed by Lutyens. Eventually, Lutyens prevailed and that was the end of friendship. कहा जाता है कि Lutyens defended the project by saying that it will suit the larger layout of the capital. Delhi goal hai, and you have, there'll be several roundabouts in the city, and it also means a full circle. British जो थे, they were high on symbolisms. If you look at the old buildings of the British, you'll always find a static bell, जिसको Delhi order कहते हैं. That means the bell that stays silent would mean perpetuity of rule. जो राज है बरकरार है. But the ringing of bells will mean change of an era or end of an era. So हर खंबे पर, चाहे वो पार्लियामेंट हाउस हो, ओल्ड पार्लियामेंट हाउस बिल्डिंग हो या राष्ट्रपति भवन हो, वहां पे आप देखेंगे कि देयर आर बेल्स ऑन द टॉप, द स्टोन कार्व्ड बेल्स ऑन द टॉप. इट्स सिग्निफिकेंट. इट्स नॉट लाइक कि ऐसे ही बना दी. ऑफ कोर्स लॉट ऑफ एलिमेंट्स वर टेकन फ्रॉम classical Indian style of architecture like chhajje, chhatri, jhali. We have lattice work. You have chalices. You have parapets. You have figurines of elephants and lions, which are there on the poles and on the walls. British also wanted to superimpose their authority, that they have these dominions of Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, and Canada. उनके जो खंबे हैं, Raisina Hill पे, right on the top of the gradient, we have 4 pillars. 2 on the side of South Block and 2 on the side of the North Block, which reads, that these are gifted by the dominions of these 4 countries, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and South Africa, as part of owing allegiance to the British Crown. So clearly it was high on symbolism. Coming to the Parliament House building, or the old Parliament House building. Now that, interestingly, had 3 main chambers, and right in the middle you have a central hall. You have Legislative Assembly, which was after independence renamed as Lok Sabha. You have Council of States, renamed as Rajya Sabha after the independence, and Chamber of Princes. That is interesting quarter. Very, very interesting third chamber. Now it's currently used as a library by the parliamentarians. Till 1950s, 56 precisely, before Supreme Court was constructed, and eventually it was shifted near Pragati Maidan, near IT, where currently it's housed. Chamber of Princes function as a Supreme Court. वहीं पे हमारा jury system के तहत Supreme Court बैठा करता था. Going inside the building, which I fortunately have the opportunity of making a documentary on history of Parliament House, वहाँ पर, interestingly, you have these chambers right on the upper floors, and that was for especially ladies from the royal families and the princely estates, so as to watch the proceedings of the chamber. तो उस पे जो है पहले पर्दे लगे हुए थे, and अब जो है it's now just used as library, so it's now just a part of its antiquity. So clearly, I mean, a lot of these elements, as I said, they were pretty high on the elements. These were incorporated in building of New Delhi. Lastly, the residence of the British officers, the ministers, and the government bungalows. पूरे के पूरे जो लेआउट है आपका, स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम राष्ट्रपति भवन टू इंडिया गेट, उसके आसपास जो है सारी जगह दे हैड गवर्नमेंट बंगलोज, which is now we term them as Lutyens bungalows. And then this was called Kingsway, उसके बाद उसका नाम राजपथ हुआ, now we call it कर्तव्य पथ. और जो जनपथ है उसका पहले नाम क्वींसवे हुआ करता था. And right at the end we have India Gate. वॉर मेमोरियल के तहत उसको बनाया गया था, बट लेटर ऑन इट वॉज टर्म्ड एज इंडिया गेट. Befittingly, हम सब जानते हैं, all of us who've grown up in Delhi, of course, all of us have memories of going to India Gate for picnic or for sometimes, evening stroll. So clearly, there is a larger thought process behind the layout of the capital. इंडिया गेट की इर्द गिर्द देखेंगे so we have these state houses, like we have Patiala House, we have Hyderabad House, we have Baroda House, Jaisalmer House, Jodhpur House, which now accommodates a lot of government offices. Like we have courts, we have MEA banquet and especially MEA meeting halls in Hyderabad House. We have National Gallery of Modern Art. We have Jaisalmer House, Bikaner House. So, I mean, post-independence, these houses, which were granted by the British to the erstwhile royals as token of their allegiance, they were converted into more meaningful government business places. Well, that was in this episode about the plan of New Delhi. I hope you like it. So once again, I would like to wish all my Delhiite friends very happy birthday to you. Very happy birthday to modern avatar of this city. Well, going forward, I would like to say that me and my brother Tushar have started a new channel, travel and lifestyle channel. That montage you'll see right at the end of this episode. So please subscribe and follow that channel too, besides following and subscribing Open Format. See you very soon. Thank you. Goodbye. What an awesome setting, यार. क्या मजेदार बात है ये, लेकिन.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I want to give you 100.
That's a rocket science.
Yeah.
ये मजा है पहाड़ी लाइफ का.
बिल्कुल.
Cheers.
Party and beer.
Absolutely.
Best combo ever.
Oh.
Cheers, guys.
Love it.